From the Oklahoman newsroom, this is a signing day update. I'm Jenny Carlson. Oklahoma State has got their class in. They were done this morning, but Kyle Fredrickson was out on the trail this afternoon. Kyle, you're just following in the footsteps of those recruiters, making your way out to eastern Oklahoma. Who'd you have a chance to catch up with today?
Today was a pair of defensive linemen committed in this class. The first guy being Brock Martin from Oologah, and then a short little 45-minute drive away in Bixby, Brendon Evers, later this afternoon also signed his letter of intent. So, yeah, a little bit out of my typical stomping grounds in the Oklahoma City area, but, you know, for the families of these kids, they're definitely excited to see them go to college and also see them go, you know, not too far away where they can watch them play. So certainly an exciting time today.
What did those two guys have to say to you, Kyle? Because, you know, you look at a place like Bixby, they've had some success in the bigger classifications of late, had guys go play Division I football. Oologah, a little bit smaller, maybe not quite the powerhouse in terms of cranking out Division I players. What was the scene and what stood out to you about these two guys you talked to today?
Well, Brock Martin was the first signing, and you know, one of the more interesting things I learned about him, and we knew this going into the day, you know, his wrestling prowess. But at one point during the recruitment process, Mike Gundy and Joe Bob Clements actually went to go watch Brock Martin wrestle in Veneta as part of the district duels. Brock Martin, a very successful two-time state championship wrestler as well. And Brock's dad, Robert, just sort of talked about how that was a great bonding experience. For basically 3 hours, Gundy and Joe Bob were sitting up in the bleachers with the family, you know, really learning more about them and their backstory, kind of giving them time to bond. You know, being that this is an in-state kid who, you know, that these parents are trusting Gundy to sort of, you know, shape them in this program or shape Brock in this program, really meant a lot for that family to have Gundy and company come out, you know, and do something with the family that really isn't football related at all. But when it comes to the field, I mean, being able to see Brock Martin in person, you know, he's every bit of that 6'3", 6'4" size. You know, the Cowboys envision him as a pass rusher off the edge, as either a down lineman, a standing lineman. And Brock even himself said that there's a possibility they might even use him as an outside linebacker in some sets. So they love his versatility and they love his size. And Brock said at this point, you know, I think there is a chance that he could play as a true freshman next year. But a lot of that, of course, is going to depend on fall camp, how he performs alongside a lot of veteran guys. The Cowboys returning a trio of players with experience who are set to be juniors next year. So there is a little bit of a gap, but, you know, if he's a guy who can show that he's got a relentless motor and with some of those already, you know, pretty impressive physical tools, there really shouldn't be a reason why he might not be one of those early impact players.
You know, Kyle, that kind of begs the question. Signing day is always, you know that these are going to be guys that are going to contribute in some way, but who contributes most and maybe unexpectedly is always a big question. Are there any guys in particular in this class that maybe we aren't really talking much about that you could see, you know, in a couple years we look back and say, man, he was really a steal in this class?
Yeah, well, you know, the one thing that the Cowboys have done especially well these past few seasons is picking up junior college linebackers. You look at the starting linebackers this past season. Chad Whitener was a transfer from Cal, so he fits the mold a little bit. But they're two outside guys, and Jordan Burton and Devontae Averett, both junior college transfers who came in big and stepped in right away for this program and helped them out big time. And when we talk about this class and some of the sleepers, guys we haven't talked about yet, you know, Patrick Macon is a guy out of Arizona Western College that we haven't had a lot of time to talk about, but he really could be a first-year starter next year if he's able to come in and do what he did in junior college. This was a guy who was a junior college national defensive player of the year, just a tackle machine for Arizona Western. They made it all the way to the JUCO national championship game. So, you know, if he's able to contend for snaps with a lot of these returning junior linebackers the Cowboys have, guys who are also vying for those roles, I think it should create some pretty good ball competition to a point where we might be seeing Patrick Macon contribute as early as this next year.
Hey, Kyle, one last wild card sort of question for you as we're talking about gems and recruiting classes. Justice Hill always springs to mind. He was a sort of under the radar guy a bit last year in the recruiting class, becomes the newcomer of the year in the Big 12. News today, though, coming out from Mike Gundy that Hill has had some off-season shoulder surgery, will miss spring practice, is expected to be back in the summer, definitely in the fall. Is this opportunity for other running backs cause for concern? Any sort of reaction to the news that Hill had that shoulder operated on?
Yeah, I think the first reaction is I think the timing is as good as it could be. Yes, he's going to miss the spring, but considering what Justice Hill did last season, I don't think he has much to prove to anyone in terms of where his standing is going to be on this team next year. This is a shoulder problem that he's had, dating back to his days at Tulsa, Washington. It's something that's lingered. So to get it out of the way now and sort of try to fix it for good, where when he has the whole summer to also just rest and get right, I think that's a big deal for the Cowboys. And like you mentioned just a second ago, it opens up a lot more carries through this spring football period here, where we might be able to see, a lot of guys who might not get snaps before compete for jobs. Now, when it comes to this running back class that OSU brings in for 2017, J.D. King and Shuba Hubbard, neither of those guys are early enrollees, so they'll have to wait until the summer to get on campus. By that point, I would presume that Justice Hill would at least be close, if not back to being healthy and ready to play. So once fall camp turns around, those guys will be thrown into the mix. But for OSU's sake, they're certainly hoping for a speedy recovery with Justice Hill, because he seems to be the guy entering this next season.
Yeah, definitely some unexpected news, but like you say, couldn't have been timed better. You don't want to have surgery on your star running back when the season's right around the corner, but we're a ways off from that. But we've got more of signing day coverage coming on News OK and in the Oklahoman, so you don't want to quit on us yet. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.